Imagine a young girl so ashamed of her looks that she covers her face every single day with a piece of cardboard just to survive the stares, the whispers, and the laughter of her classmates. But one day something happened that changed her life forever, and the very same people who mocked her were left speechless. Her name was Amara, and from the very beginning her life was not the kind anyone would envy. She was born in a small village where beauty was praised louder than kindness, and appearance often meant more than character. Unfortunately for Amara, she did not fit the mold. Her skin was marked with scars from a childhood illness, her teeth were uneven, and her hair, no matter how much she tried, never seemed to fall into place. Children could be cruel, and adults, though they smiled politely, often let their eyes linger too long in pity. At first, Amara tried to endure it. She walked to school every morning with her books clutched close to her chest, telling herself that she was there to learn, not to impress anyone. But words have a way of cutting deeper than stones. Every day whispers followed her. Ugly. Monster. Why doesn't she stay at home? Sometimes they laughed out loud, pointing at her face as though it was a mask from a horror story. Amara would rush to her seat, wishing she could disappear. One evening, after another humiliating day, she sat by the fire with tears rolling down her cheeks. Her grandmother, the only person who seemed to understand her pain, noticed. "My dear," she said softly, "if the world chooses not to see your soul, then hide what they hurt you for. Protect yourself until you are strong enough to face them." Those words stuck in Amara's mind. The next morning she found a torn piece of cardboard, cut holes for her eyes, and wore it like a mask. At first, everyone thought it was a joke. The students laughed harder, clapping their hands as she entered the classroom. "Look, the ugly girl has become a box," someone shouted. But Amara didn't cry this time. Behind the carton, their insults couldn't pierce her as deeply. They couldn't see her tears, they couldn't watch her shame. Slowly the mask became her shield. Every day she wore it. Every day she survived. Teachers tried to convince her to take it off, but she refused. "If I remove it, you'll see me," she said in a trembling voice, "and I can't bear that anymore." They sighed, not knowing what to do, and let her be. The days turned into months, and soon Amara was known as the girl with the carton. But something began to change inside her. Behind that mask, she started to feel strangely powerful. While others mocked her, she listened in silence, and when the laughter faded, she turned her focus to her studies. She read every book she could find, stayed behind after class to ask questions, and spent nights under the dim glow of a kerosene lamp, scribbling notes until her eyes burned. Nobody noticed her intelligence, for they were too busy mocking her appearance. But Amara was quietly building something inside her that no insult could destroy. One day a new teacher arrived. His name was Mr. Daniel. Unlike the others, he didn't seem to laugh or stare at Amara with pity. When he saw her with the carton over her face, he simply raised an eyebrow and said, "As long as you can see the board and write your notes, that's enough." For the first time, someone treated her like a normal student. Amara felt a strange warmth in her chest. Over time, Mr. Daniel began to notice how quickly she understood his lessons. While other students struggled, Amara answered correctly from behind her mask. He praised her in front of everyone. "Excellent, Amara," he would say. At first, the class giggled. How could the ugly girl be the smartest? But slowly their laughter weakened. Day after day, Amara proved herself, and though the carton remained, her brilliance shone through. Still, the cruelty didn't vanish. Some girls would block her path, trying to snatch her mask away. She fought fiercely to keep it on, screaming, "Leave me alone," until they backed off. Her scars beneath that carton were her secret, her pain, and she wasn't ready for anyone to see. Yet fate has a strange way of revealing truths when we least expect it. One afternoon after class, Amara was hurrying home when the sky darkened with heavy clouds. Rain poured down suddenly, and she ran along the muddy path, clutching her books to her chest. A group of boys followed, mocking her as usual. "Hey, carton girl, don't drown in the rain," they shouted. As she stumbled on a rock, her carton slipped off her face, landing in the mud. For a brief moment, everyone froze. Amara's scars were exposed, glistening under the rain. Her uneven teeth trembled as she whispered, "Don't look at me." The boys stared, expecting to laugh, but instead they were silent. For the first time they saw not a monster, but a fragile, trembling girl who was simply human. Amara picked up her carton, pressed it back against her face, and ran as fast as her legs could carry her. She reached home, slammed the door, and collapsed into her grandmother's arms, sobbing. "They saw me," she cried. "They'll never forget." Her grandmother stroked her hair gently, whispering, "One day, child, they will look beyond your face." One day they will see the fire within you. That day will come sooner than you think. Amara didn't believe her. She only knew that the carton had failed her once, and the fear of being exposed haunted her dreams that night. Yet deep inside something had shifted. For the first time, someone had seen her scars without laughing, and that tiny crack of silence stayed in her mind. She didn't know it then, but her life was about to change in a way no one could have predicted. Amara wore her carton mask again the next morning, determined not to let anyone see her face again. But the silence from the boys who had mocked her yesterday kept replaying in her mind. She expected more insults, more cruel laughter, but strangely they avoided her. They didn't speak, they didn't call her names, they just stared at her with puzzled expressions. It was as though they had seen something they couldn't understand. Still, the whispers in the classroom carried on. "She's so strange," one girl muttered. "Why doesn't she just stay at home?" But Amara ignored them. She focused on her lessons, pouring every ounce of her energy into her studies. Knowledge became her escape. While others gossiped and laughed, she wrote notes, memorized lines, and solved problems. Mr. Daniel noticed her dedication, and though he didn't press her about the carton, he often stayed after class to help her. "Amara," he said one evening, "you are the brightest student I've taught in years. But you mustn't hide from the world forever. One day people will need to see you as you are." She shook her head firmly. "They only see my scars. They don't care about what I know or how hard I work. If I take this off, I'll lose everything." Mr. Daniel looked at her gently. "Sometimes the world must first see your light before it realizes your scars are just shadows." Those words stayed with Amara, though she couldn't fully accept them. As the months passed, a regional school competition was announced. Students from different villages would gather to compete in knowledge, debates, and problem-solving. It was a huge event and everyone wanted to participate. When the list of participants was announced, Amara's name was at the top. The entire class erupted. "What? Carton girl?" one boy shouted. "She can't stand on a stage. She'll embarrass us," another sneered. Even some of the teachers frowned, worried about how the school would look if their strange student represented them. But Mr. Daniel stood firm. "She is the best student for this, and I will not allow anyone to replace her." Amara's stomach twisted with fear. The thought of standing before hundreds of people made her legs weak. "Sir, I can't do it," she whispered. "They'll laugh at me." Mr. Daniel leaned closer. "Amara, listen to me. If you don't try, you'll stay behind that carton forever. If you try even once, you'll show them that your mind is stronger than their insults. Trust me." That night, Amara sat under the stars, clutching her carton mask in her hands. She thought of her grandmother's words, of the silence when the boys saw her face in the rain, of Mr. Daniel's encouragement. Slowly she realized something. Hiding had kept her safe, but it had also trapped her. If she wanted freedom, she would have to take the risk. The day of the competition arrived. The school hall was packed with students, teachers, and parents from across the region. Amara sat in the waiting area, her carton mask trembling in her hands. Whispers filled the air as soon as people saw her. "That's the girl? Why is she hiding her face? How embarrassing." Her name was called. The stage was hers. Heart pounding, Amara took a deep breath and walked slowly to the microphone. She could feel hundreds of eyes burning into her. Her hands shook as she lifted the carton mask. For a moment she froze. Fear screamed in her mind, "Don't do it. They'll laugh. They'll hurt you again." But then she remembered her grandmother's voice. "One day they will see the fire within you." With trembling fingers, she removed the carton and placed it on the table beside her. Gasps rippled through the hall. Her scars were there, her uneven teeth, her messy hair. For a long second, the room was silent. She thought she would faint. Then she spoke. Her voice was shaky at first, but with every word, strength poured into her. She explained the question with clarity, weaving facts and logic so seamlessly that even the judges leaned forward in awe. Her intelligence cut through the air like lightning. By the time she finished, the room erupted in applause. For the first time in her life, people weren't clapping at her, they were clapping for her. Tears filled her eyes, but she stood tall. That day, Amara answered every question with brilliance, her scars forgotten, her carton discarded. She won the competition, earning not only the first-place trophy but also the respect of everyone present. Back at her village, the students who once mocked her now looked at her differently. They didn't whisper "ugly" anymore. Instead, they whispered "genius." Some tried to approach her, pretending to be friendly, but Amara had learned enough to know who was sincere and who wasn't. Her grandmother held her tightly that night, whispering, I told you, child. The fire within you is brighter than any scar. But Amara's journey was far from over. Winning the competition brought her recognition, but it also brought something else: jealousy. And soon she would learn that not everyone would celebrate her success. Some would do everything in their power to drag her back into the shadows. And Amara had no idea how dark that battle would become. Amara thought winning the competition would change everything. And in some ways it did. Teachers who once ignored her now praised her in front of the class. Students who had whispered insults now tried to sit near her, to copy her notes, to claim they had always been her friends. For the first time she walked into school without her carton mask. And though the scars on her face were still there, people seemed less focused on them now. But not everyone was happy. Envy is a quiet poison, and it was spreading fast. A group of girls, led by Ngozi, couldn't stand to see Amara admired. Ngozi had always been the prettiest in the class, praised for her beauty and charm, but now she felt overshadowed by the ugly girl she used to mock. She thinks she's better than us just because she can answer a few questions, Ngozi hissed one day during break. Well, let's see how long that lasts. Soon the whispers returned. Not the same insults as before, but darker ones. She cheated in the competition. Mr. Daniel gave her the answers. She bewitched the judges. Amara heard them, and each word pierced her heart. One afternoon, as she sat under the tree with her books, Ngozi approached her with a fake smile. Amara, you've become so popular. Everyone's talking about you. But remember, people don't like when someone climbs too high. They like to pull them back down. Amara closed her book and looked at her calmly. If they want to pull me down, let them try. I didn't win with lies, I won with knowledge. Ngozi's smile faded and her eyes turned cold. We'll see. Days later, a rumor spread that Amara's scars were a curse, that anyone who got too close to her would suffer. Students began avoiding her again, leaving empty seats around her. Even teachers looked uneasy, whispering when they thought she wasn't listening. Amara's chest tightened with pain. Why? She cried to her grandmother one evening. Why can't they just let me live? First they hated me for being ugly. Now they hate me for being good at something. What did I ever do to them? Her grandmother stroked her hair softly. My child, people fear what they do not understand. Some fear beauty, some fear intelligence, but many fear strength. And you, Amara, are strong. That is why they attack you. But words of comfort couldn't stop what came next. One morning, Amara walked into school to find cruel drawings of her face scratched onto the blackboard, with words written in chalk. Monster girl. Laughter erupted when she entered, though a few students looked guilty and turned their eyes away. She froze, her throat tightening, tears threatening to spill. For a moment, the urge to run, to grab her carton mask and hide forever, overwhelmed her. But then she remembered the stage, the applause, the trophy. She remembered Mr. Daniel's words, "Your mind is stronger than their insults." She picked up the chalk, walked to the board, and beneath the cruel drawings she wrote, "The monster who won first place." The room went silent. Some laughed nervously, but others lowered their heads in shame. Amara returned to her seat without another word. Mr. Daniel later found her sitting alone. "You showed courage today," he said softly. "But courage does not mean you won't feel pain. I know it hurts." "It hurts more than anything," she admitted, her voice breaking. "Sometimes I wish I was normal. Sometimes I wish I was beautiful, just so they'd stop." Mr. Daniel placed a hand on her shoulder. "Amara, beauty fades but brilliance remains. Do not waste your life wishing for their shallow approval. One day they will regret ever doubting you." But the jealousy around her only grew worse. One evening, after staying late to study, Amara returned to find her carton mask torn to pieces in the classroom, her books scattered and trampled. She fell to her knees, clutching the ruined pages, and sobbed quietly. She thought she was alone until she heard footsteps. It was Chitty, one of the boys who had once mocked her. He stood awkwardly by the door, holding out a notebook. "Amara, I found this before they could destroy it." He handed it to her, his eyes filled with guilt. "I used to laugh at you, but I was wrong. You're stronger than all of us. I just wanted to say, I'm sorry." For the first time, someone who had once hurt her offered kindness. She took the notebook with trembling hands. "Thank you," she whispered. It was a small moment, but it lit a spark of hope in her heart. Perhaps not everyone was against her. Perhaps, slowly, things could change. But Amara had no idea that the greatest test was yet to come. An opportunity was about to arrive that could change her life forever, or destroy her completely. Weeks passed, and the tension in Amara's life only deepened. The jealousy, the whispers, the cruel jokes, they didn't stop. Yet she endured. She studied harder, worked quietly, and refused to let anyone steal her fire. One morning, Mr. Daniel entered the classroom with an announcement that silenced everyone. "Students," he said, his voice carrying excitement, "our school has been invited to the National Academic Challenge in the capital city. It is a chance for us to prove ourselves among the brightest in the nation." The class erupted into chatter. It was the biggest opportunity they had ever heard of. Winning could mean scholarships, recognition, and a future far greater than any of them had imagined. "And the student representing us," Mr. Daniel continued, "will be Amara." Gasps filled the air. Whispers rose instantly. "Her again? She'll embarrass us." "Why always her?" Ngozi's face burned with fury, her nails digging into her palm. She had dreamed of being chosen, of standing in the spotlight. But once again the ugly girl was ahead of her. That night, Amara sat under the stars again, holding her worn-out books. The thought of facing not just her village but the entire nation terrified her. "What if I fail? What if they laugh at me?" she whispered. Her grandmother took her hands. "Child, they will laugh whether you fail or succeed. That is what people do. But if you succeed, their laughter will not matter. Go, Amara. Show them the strength they tried to bury." The day of the competition arrived. The hall in the capital was grand, filled with students in polished uniforms, judges in suits, and reporters scribbling notes. Amara stood backstage trembling. She could almost hear the old insults echoing in her mind. "Ugly. Monster. Carton girl." She closed her eyes and remembered the rain, the silence when the boys had first seen her face. She remembered the applause when she removed her mask at the regional contest. She remembered her grandmother's words, and for the first time she smiled through her fear. When her turn came, Amara walked to the stage. She did not wear the carton. She did not lower her head. She stood tall, scars and all, and faced the audience. Some gasped, some whispered, but she didn't care. The questions began, each one more difficult than the last. But Amara's mind was sharp, her answers clear, confident, and powerful. She explained with patience, argued with logic, and solved problems others couldn't. With every word, the room grew quieter, more attentive. They weren't staring at her scars anymore. They were staring at her brilliance. By the end, the applause shook the hall. The judges rose to their feet. And when they announced her as the winner, Amara felt tears stream down her face. Not because of the trophy, not because of the victory, but because for the first time in her life she no longer felt ashamed of who she was. Back in her village, she returned with the trophy held high. The same students who once mocked her now cheered. Even those who had spread lies lowered their heads in guilt. Ngozi, who had once been the loudest voice against her, stood silently at the back, unable to meet her eyes. Amara walked straight to her grandmother, who hugged her tightly. "You see, child? The fire within you has burned brighter than their cruelty." Years later, Amara's story spread far beyond her village. She earned scholarships, studied in universities, and became a teacher herself, standing in front of classrooms telling children, "Never hide your light. Even if the world laughs, even if they mock, your worth is greater than their words." And as she spoke, she always remembered the carton mask she once wore. It was not a symbol of shame anymore, but a reminder that even the ugliest beginnings can lead to the most beautiful endings. Because Amara had learned a truth most people never understand. Beauty fades, but the courage to rise above pain lasts forever.